See a truck ran over you. What did you say on Twitter?
It's like someone found me under a rock.
Welcome, everyone, to this very ordinary, not at all special, completely unnecessary podcast for Tuesday, February 9th, 2021, alongside Ian Ferguson.
It's me.
I'm back country. On the
here.
show today, we'll be talking about my hero, Howard Phillips, has a Kickstarter. Talking about some controversy when it comes to game preservation and prototypes. An astounding looking Intellivision Amico game we must discuss. Street Fighter 2's 30th anniversary. And probably a Patreon poll. And someone has a comment for us here that we're going to play here. Well, this is kind of surprising. They got our hotline here.
Oh.
Hey guys, Professor Dan Greenberg here. On behalf of myself, Alex, ZeldaCat, and the whole Winter Iron Game Studios team, congrats on 250 episodes of the Completely Unnecessary podcast. Looking forward to catching up in the near future. Team Sushi will ride again. Until then, keep up the awesome work. Cheers.
Thank you, Daniel.
It's got a voice.
Very nice, Daniel.
It's got a good voice.
Writer for a certain N64 guidebook, and he is part of. He's probably the co-captain of Team Sushi along with me. We've shared the seats or the assistant coaches, assistant players like in hockey.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm Mark Messier. He's Brian Leach, maybe on the alignment there. But thanks, Dan. Yeah, it is the 250th.
The 250th. Quarter of 1,000.
Yeah. Ian's been around for probably 240 of those. I think I did about 10 by myself, maybe 12 here and there. But yeah, what do you think we get this far, Ian? 250? I mean, it helped going. Going weekly a week and a half ago. We went weekly, or was that beginning of last year? We went weekly.
Yeah, beginning of last year we went weekly.
It definitely helped. Otherwise, we'd be at 500 by now, which would be insane.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
But some podcasts go for a while. So what do you think, Ian? Is that an accomplishment, or it's just really like we're just grinding them out?
It's an accomplishment, but I feel like it's nice. It's good.
It's nice.
It's great. It's nice.
7.5 years.
7.5. Fuck, that's a long time to do a podcast.
And that's longer than most YouTube shows, and probably longer than most podcasts. When you think about it, how many podcasts last that long?
It's a shame our careers were ended many times.
I was going to say, our careers were over now for 2.5 years almost at this point. At least once. No, but seriously, thanks to everyone out there who's supported us and followed along the journey. And we're still going strong-ish at this point. Though we're older men at this point. We're not young, fresh-faced 33-year-olds, and you were 31 when we started the podcast.
If you look at like the pictures of me when we started this and like the pictures of me now, it looks like we've been doing the podcast for 25 years.
Well, it's really the facial, it's really the hair growth. Yeah. If you shaved and cut your hair, I think you probably look a couple of years older. And my hair's gotten longer. And I've had facial hair a couple times on the podcast in between here. I had a beard a couple times the past 8 years.
It's true. We've seen a lot of different flavors of Pat.
A lot of different flavors. No short hair bearded Pat yet, though. That'd be kind of weird.
That wasn't done?
No, was not done. Actually, no, it was. When I first moved here, I had a beard.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say.
Why do you say that? I wasn't talking to you then, really. You didn't see me, did you?
I'm fairly certain when I met you, you were short-haired, bearded. And I mean, I met you before you moved here.
When I first came to Comic-Con, I did not have the beard. I had the beard after I moved here. So you probably saw me a couple times when I moved here.
That's what I'm saying. I would have seen you with that beard and short hair combo.
Okay, maybe. All right, it's getting creepy. And obviously, yes, for those who think our careers are over or should be over, I mean, so it's on our terms. It's what we want to do. People still think they want to. If 14 people think we have something semi-interesting to say, we're going to keep doing it. Maybe more than 14.
Maybe.
It has to be slightly harder than 4. Add a couple of zeros to that, perhaps. But Ian, how was your weekend, Ian? How was your Super Bowl weekend?
So I did not pay attention to the Super Bowl at all.
It was a
this year.
bad Super Bowl, but I'll get into that. What
Yeah,
did you do?
I don't feel like I missed anything by not paying attention to the Super Bowl this year. Nope, just worked. It was busy. I played a lot of Dicey Dungeons. I've been really
Dicey Dungeons?
really
Is that
hooked
your,
on
is that your
Dicey
pet
Dungeons. Nope, that's what it's called. It came out like a year and a half ago on PC. I got kind of hooked on it, and then I got hooked on it again when it came out on the Switch. But it's like a dice-based deck builder by Terry Kavanagh, and basically you roll dice.
Why does that name sound familiar to me?
Because he did VVVVV,
Okay.
Super Hexagon. He's done other games. But yeah, basically you gain equipment as you go through a dungeon, and you roll dice at the beginning of every turn, and you slot those dice into different cards for different effects. And it's hard to explain, I guess. But
You throw dice into cards?
you roll dice, and then you slot those dice into cards. So let's say you're playing as the warrior, and you get a card that's like the broadsword, and then you get a card that lets you re-roll, and you roll a dice. And if it's 5, you can slot it into the broadsword to do 5 damage. If it's a 3, you put it into the broadsword and you do 3 damage. But you can keep re-rolling it until you get a 6. To
When you say put it on, in your head, you're not literally putting it in like a card, like a piece of dice into a card.
No, it is. It is. The game
It's
is
a container.
The game is made like a board game, so it's like cards, and you're putting dice on the cards to do the actions.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. It's
Anyway, really good art, really great soundtrack, and yeah, I've just been hooked on it again. So that's what I've been working on. I didn't do a whole lot of cooking this weekend for once, but I am going to make ravioli tonight.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I did a Super Bowl. I always do sandwiches and sides. The game was horrible. I was saying to Frank before the game that there hasn't been a blowout in a while in a Super Bowl. Wow. And so we were due for one, and it was just, no one was really expecting this one, but the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line looked like they were high schoolers because Mahomes was running for his life. He got what was the statistic? He got rushed or hurried or hit or sacked like it was like 30 times in the game. He ran. The statistic was before he threw the ball, the cumulative yards he ran was over 400 yards of running around the field, like added up before he threw it. And for Brady, it was like 30 yards. It showed like how it was the most ever in a Super Bowl where someone got like that harried. And so it was a bad Super Bowl. The commercials were weird. They try to make them funny. I mean, there was some social distancing ones. The highlight was Jason Alexander. There was a Jason Alexander. I think it was for Tide detergent. Someone wearing a Jason Alexander face sweatshirt that would constantly change emotions based upon what the guy was trying to do to ruin it. It was pretty entertaining there. And it was funny because Believe It or Not was playing in the background, which was the famous voicemail message that he put on his answer machine that he sings in the show. Remember that from Seinfeld?
I hate
Believe
Seinfeld.
it or not, George isn't at home. So
cannot
leave your
stand-
message at the beep. You
Cannot
never,
stand
you never know
Seinfeld.
that from it? Okay.
No, I mean, in terms of shows that I missed, Simpsons I don't know a lot about, but I know some, and I tend to like the episodes of The Simpsons I've watched. Seinfeld is another big blank space for me, but every time I try to watch something Seinfeld related, I'm like, I really don't understand why people enjoyed Seinfeld.
Do you like Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yeah, I like Curb Your Enthusiasm a little bit more, but I don't like Seinfeld.
That's all Larry David. That's all. Yeah. Well, he's a huge, obviously. George Costanza is Larry David. I mean, everyone knows at this point. He's basically the character in real life. Anyway, and then I tweeted out that I honestly, and this isn't me trying to be cool or edgy or hip or old, I didn't know who the Super Bowl halftime singer was. I didn't know it. This was the first time ever where I was like, I didn't have a hint of who it was. The Weeknd, without an E at the end. I had no clue who that was. And then I think the last song played, I was like, okay, I might have heard that song on the radio or played. I hadn't, I mean, seriously, I hadn't a clue. I hadn't seen this person before in my life.
That is kind of bad.
I hadn't seen that person. Like, I stopped watching the Grammys and MTV Music Awards once I hit my 30s. I just stopped.
I'm just saying I don't pay attention to like a lot of mainstream music stuff, and I don't understand how anyone doesn't know who The Weeknd is at this point.
And that's not me saying the music's bad. I had no idea. I honestly didn't have any idea. And other people agree. Like, yeah, some people like Pat, you're old. Some people are like, no, I had no idea either. My 30-year-old didn't. So my 30-year-old friend had no idea. I was like, I had no fucking clue. And then someone had a suggestion that, well, music isn't as centralized as it used to be.
Sure.
It's spread out more. We're not all listening to radio. And like I said, the music award shows aren't as big as they used to be. Like everyone used to watch the Grammys and MTV Awards, and that doesn't happen anymore. So I had no clue. So I guess it's harder to keep up. And officially, once I hit 40, I'm like, okay.
I mean, and that's not me making fun of you for not knowing. The amount of exposure the weekend has been given, I can't even miss it. I like the weekend's music well enough, but I hear it every time I go to the grocery store, so I don't need to ever buy any.
Oh, it's one of those things that's it's so
literally
neutered
everywhere.
That it's at the supermarket.
It's just that's why I was surprised that you hadn't heard it, just because he's literally everywhere. Like every time I go to the supermarket, you're guaranteed to hear one of his songs.
The Weeknd. He's not that old, the guy. I looked him up afterwards. He's like only 30. So I'm like, he must be fairly new. Abel Makinen Tesfaye. Okay. Yeah, The Weeknd's easier to say. Okay, contemporary music. All right. It's like the homogenized modern popular music.
He's pop. Yeah, he's 100% a pop music.
Okay, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, I mean, gun to my head, who is this person? Pat's dead. Like, I'm not, that's it. Gun to my head, I had no idea who it was. I'd be like, I don't know. Kanye's cousin? I have no idea who that is. Okay. So the game sucked. Everyone's saying Tom Brady's the GOAT. He's not. Not for team sports, no. He didn't dominate as much as Jordan or Wayne Gretzky or other team sports guys. Or fucking Willie Mays, which no one brings up, or Babe Ruth. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm not
he's still a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not. He's not the best. First of all, he's a shitty athlete to be. Like, he's not a good athlete. He's a good football player. He's not a good athlete. He can't run. He can't jump. He can throw a football and read defenses and call players. That's not like saying you're a great athlete. To me, it's something different. Sorry. I'm not a hater, even though Eli Manning beat him twice. So is Eli Manning a better athlete than Brady, or he's better than him? No, I hate this shit. Sorry.
I am a hater. I hate Tom Brady.
Okay.
And the thing is, in the world of sports,
there goes our Massachusetts fan base.
In the world of sports, I don't need a good reason to hate Tom Brady, other than the fact that I'm a Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh, okay.
And as a Buffalo Bills fan,
you are allowed.
I hate Tom Brady. People get really into it when I say, like, oh, I hate Tom Brady. They're like, oh, jealousy, this, that, and the next thing. It's like, no, sometimes it's as simple as I root for Team A, so I will always and forever hate person from Team B.
Okay, that's fine.
I hate Tom Brady.
I just think it's funny where, like, they always say, like, well, he beat this quarterback. It's like, they don't face it. Quarterbacks don't play each other, and quarterbacks play only half the game. So, like, they're not responsible for the other half of the game. So, like, if you put Dan Marino, who was an awesome quarterback on a shitty team, on Dan Marino from the 80s, and put him on all these Patriots teams, you don't think they would have done even better? Come on. You got to be kidding me. It's ridiculous.
Tom Brady is a shitty baby boy.
Okay.
People, I just think it's funny when people try to argue this shit with facts when it's so obviously just based on emotions and team alignments. Like,
yes, it is.
That's all it is. It doesn't have, well, he did. I don't care what he did.
I don't care if he wins.
I hate your little baby man. I don't like him.
He can win 10 more Super Bowls based upon having awesome defenses each time he goes to the Super Bowl, and I don't care.
And I will tell you, he sucks every single time.
Okay. Speaking of sucks, EA Sports is doing college football again. Real quick, that's my segue there.
Yeah, that's a good segue. All I've really got to say on this is that's good. Awesome. That's good. I'm tired of $100 or $80 copies of NCAA 14 because that's what it's been going for.
People are spending that much money to play a 7-year-old sports game.
I had someone come in
just to see their team logo and blaze. They don't have the modern rosters.
I had someone come in 4 months ago, buy a PlayStation 3, and just to play NCAA 14, and they bought the copy of NCAA 14 from us too. And at that time, it was at $100.
Are you for real?
Yeah, dead serious.
Because 13's on eBay for $16.
Yeah, no, 14 specifically.
Just because that was the last one.
It was the last one they did.
Fuck.
And the price on that's going to plummet now. That they're doing another one, which is
looks
good.
Like, but no, you're not. Ian's not lying.
No,
there's one for open bidding. 4 hours left. That's $76. They must have made millions of those. Are you kidding me?
It's gone down by about $20 since I would say like the summer.
Someone's trying to get $25 just for the fucking case. That's hysterical to me.
Yeah.
So that used to be probably like a $20 game.
It was a $5 game at one point.
And then people were like,
all those games get down to $5, and then they just realized that they weren't doing more of them. So people always want the most recent one they can get,
just to collect that.
No, just to play it. They want to play a college football game. These people who are buying this are mostly buying it to play it. They just want the most relevant engine. They want the latest that's what they want.
So they're not going to play the Madden game, which has a more up-to-date engine. They want to play the last college football
They
game.
want to play college football. So they go and
They want to play as Notre Dame, even though the roster, those guys are right now selling houses or doing, they're doing people's taxes.
I think there's probably been, I'm sure they've been doing custom rosters.
You can do custom rosters on the consoles?
You can do custom rosters with just about any football game.
Oh, they'll make you, okay.
There are people who are still updating fucking ESPN 2K5.
They're doing what?
Updating ESPN 2K5, Patrick. Anyways, this is all well and good. I don't care. I would like to see a college basketball game again. Preferably not EA.
Preferably if they pay the kids.
Yeah, well, yeah, give the kids fucking money. That's always been what I've said.
They literally put their face on the cover of these games, of these basketball games and these football games, and they make money off. I think we're getting there finally. Getting
cut this austerity bullshit.
Oh, it's pure. No, you're making billions of dollars off of these fucking kids. It's slave labor. These kids are killing themselves, especially playing football, injuring themselves, and you're making billions of dollars. They're not getting a cent. Oh, they're getting tuition. Yeah, the skills that don't balance out quite a bit there, do they? For the tuition versus making billions of dollars off of this shit.
Pay them, you gross imbecile.
I'm not saying you got to give them millions of dollars. Give the kids like a fucking, I don't know, 20 grand a year and they can't touch it till they graduate. Give them something. If they sell 20,000 of your jersey, you should get a cut of that.
Yeah.
If you're making the money off of your name, you're not getting cut of it. You should be able to get a cut off that or your likeness. That's ridiculous.
Just pay them.
It's fucking ridiculous. It's absurd.
There is no argument anyone can ever make to
no,
me.
It's the purity. Eat my ass, the purity.
I'll give you a pure ass you can munch on.
It's all these crusty old people in their ivory towers, literally at Ivy League schools. Oh, we got to get the money from these kids. Like, that's what happens. They don't want to pay the kids.
The word austerity keeps coming up lately, and I hate austerity in anything. This false sternness that we're doing it for your own good. This is for the kids so they can learn a love and passion for the sport.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was thinking more. Usually, when you think of austerity, it's with tax proposals and policy, but anyway. So
austerity. Yeah, there's austerity politics as well.
So I watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World this weekend. And over 10 years ago, this movie came out, right? It was 2010?
Yes.
We talk about Scott Pilgrim a lot because of the game. People love the game, re-releasing the game. It's the poster child, as Ian said, for like digital gaming, how the game goes away. You can't buy it. So it came on Netflix. I don't know when. So I was, you know what? I'm going to sit down on my Saturday night and I'm going to watch Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Never seen any of it before. Like, just besides...
Are you about to have a lot of really old hot takes that are brand new to you?
No. I don't care.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I don't think it was a horrible movie. Do I ever want to watch this movie again? Never want to see this movie again. And maybe because I'm 10 years removed from this in terms of geek culture, how much geek culture has moved in 10 years. But I think even 30-year-old, short-haired, slightly chubbier Pat would have disliked this movie to a degree, even 10 years ago, when Walking Dead was zombie geek culture, Comic-Con was blowing up. We never had a celebration of geek culture to this extent before. Now we're seeing it on the screen. And when I'm watching this, and I know it's based upon a graphic novel, when I'm watching this, all I'm thinking to myself is that Scott is the worst person in the world. That may not be a hot take, but this is an unlikable character surrounded by other unlikable characters that I don't see how people got into this as much as they did back then, besides the obviously awesome direction, great special effects. The fight scenes are well done, and the effects. That said, the characters are shit in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Almost all of them are shit characters and are unlikable characters. And I almost turned it off 25 minutes in because the first half hour drags before anything happens. So I was just like, okay, where's this going? And then I texted Ian because I was actually kind of shocked that Scott Pilgrim's a 22-year-old character that's dating a 17-year-old high school student. And I looked it up in Canada about what the age of consent is. And in Canada, it's weird. It's like 16 or 17, but there's like conditions around it. So when I'm watching this, I'm like, did people gloss over this when this came out, that this guy is going out with someone that in most states in the U.S. would be illegal? And they even dance around it in the movie because they don't call it creepy. It's fucking creepy. The sister character calls it scandalous, and it's fucking creepy that the sister is into like gossiping about her brother's sex life or relationship. So that creeped me out too, the Anna Kendrick character. But it's fucking creepy that a 22-year-old literally goes up to pick up his Asian schoolgirl high school girlfriend from high school while all the other students are coming out. And I'm watching this like, did anyone talk about this when this come out? Or we just wanted to see comic book and video game references in a movie? I was creeped out. I'm not even kidding. I was fucking creeped out by that.
They definitely talked about it. That's the fucking point.
But they just say, oh, it's scandalous and weird. No, it's criminal. It's disgusting that he's doing that. And they try to dance around, well, we just kissed. But it's like, now you're trying to think, is Scott Pilgrim saying that because he knows it's creepy? Is he hiding something? Why are they allowing this to go on? They should be shaming him for this. And it's also a weird dynamic where she's into him as like a little teeny bopper because he's in a band. And so that's fucking creepy to me too, seeing that. And all rolled together, I was creeped out by that. I'm not trying to go, this isn't clutching a pearl necklace or any necklace. Clutching pearls, is that what it's called? I just thought it was creepy. And I think the character is unlikable, and I think it's a weird geek fantasy that this unlikable character has. He has a rock star ex-girlfriend that would never go for someone like him. Then he meets a cool Ramona Flowers character that's like a hip, edgy character. Oh, by the way, he's also dating an Asian schoolgirl. It's this weird geek fulfillment fantasy that I guess if you figured I can never get a girl, this is the life I want. I want to be Scott Pilgrim and have 3 unattainable women that are all in this love quadrangle going on at one time, and it turned me off. Just that weird angle alone. But I did like the fight scenes, and I did love like Chris Evans' character. Brandon Routh was hysterical as the vegan guy. That was the highlight of the movie to me, was that fight and him being the vegan powers. I thought that was hysterical because I didn't know he was in the movie till I saw, Brandon Routh there. But other than that, and Jason Schwartzman was hysterical. Like he should have been in the movie the entire time. Jason Schwartzman. That was the biggest flaw to me, is that Jason Schwartzman should have been the villain that grounded the entire movie. Like him only showing up in the last 20 minutes, that was a demerit.
That was a case of it was a.
Was that a casting thing? They couldn't get him? Or
no, that was a Game of Thrones thing. The manga hadn't yet been finished.
Oh, really? So they didn't know how to write it.
They didn't know how to finish the ending.
Oh, that was the biggest thing to me, is that like the first 30 minutes, nothing fantastical happens. Then the fight happens without telling you this is going to be a video game fight. It's like, okay, I kind of buy it. It's a video game. Okay, I get that. They don't explain the League of Heroes, League of Villains at all. They have throwaway lines. He brought us together, but they don't really tell you why all these characters agree to fight together against it. It's just like an afterthought. I kind of get that. But with Jason Schwartzman, the character is so good and so well done. Now I'm like, wow, he should have been the villain. You're supposed to introduce a villain within the first 20 minutes of a movie. That's pretty much standard for most of these type of movies, where it's like, all right, we know what we're going up against. With this movie, you're just sort of flying from scene to scene, and they throw the fight scenes in here and there, and I get they're well done. But to me, the whole movie, it would have been better if you had Schwartzman the whole time. So those are my thoughts, Ian. Are those old hot takes? Were people saying that 10 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a very surface level reading of the movie. I have really nothing else to add to Scott Pilgrim discourse in 2021.
Okay. I just was shocked. I expected.
He was never supposed to be. I mean, if you went into the movie thinking he was supposed to be like a likable character, I guess that
you should watch movies with likable characters. Otherwise, why do I want to watch the movie? I don't want to watch a movie with an unlikable character. That's like, what, you don't watch movies with awful protagonists.
I don't know, my favorite anime is full of unlikable characters. And that's the point.
It wasn't for me. I wouldn't have liked it 10 years ago.
I have not watched. I haven't read the comic. I've seen the movie once. But I mean, the point was never to find Scott Pilgrim a good character.
So what's the point?
To watch this transformation.
He doesn't transform.
Right, I know he doesn't. That's kind of the point of the comic.
He transforms in the comic.
But it's a send-up of people who... It's a send-up of the dude who used to go pick up the fucking seniors from your high school.
Oh, see, I didn't know any guys like that. So, like, they acted like that? You knew? Okay, I didn't. I didn't hang out with them.
I didn't hang out with them either. I didn't know. Creepy fucking dudes were all over high school.
So it's really a send-up of, okay, this is an unlikable type of person. We're going to follow him along the journey where his transformation has ended. Yeah, I'm sorry I cheated on you too. And
He was the typical, he's the prototypical, I'm a good guy character who's not a good guy.
Oh, I knew those good people in college. Okay.
That's what he is.
Then why do I want to see him win? I want to see him get his ass kicked. By the way, that's the only other thing
you do for a significant portion of it.
That's another thing that kind of bothered me. There's no stakes in the fights. There's like, he doesn't get hurt. He like falls down. It's like, well, what happens if he loses? He doesn't get the girl. So like there's no stakes in the fights either. So by the time you get to the fourth fight, you're like, we know how it's going to end. That's the other thing. So like I said, I know it's a hot take for 2020, but I'll never watch that movie again. Never.
Okay.
Never.
We should really move on.
Okay. We're gonna move on to a store.
We've got enamel pins. We've got shirts. We've got Super Nintendo books.
UltimateNintendo.com.
UltimateNintendo.com. And we're doing a little sale right now.
We're doing a $250 at CU podcast.
Little sale. 25% off the limited shirts and 30% off the pins. This week only. Go buy them up.
Well, that's the best sale Ian's ever done for anything on this show ever.
Yep.
Right there.
Go get your discounted goods.
If you want to see me rail on Scott Pilgrim again, I'll be on Twitch tomorrow. Twitch.tv/Contrical. Before I do my 80s commercials, I will rail on how much I hate that character.
For Pat's timely takes.
Was it really a criticism of like the asshole guys? That movie? That's what it was supposed to be?
I don't know where you're thinking you're reading something that no one else has seen before.
I never said no one else said it. Okay. I said this is just my response to it.
Yeah.
I've never seen a criticism of the movie. I've never saw reviews of it. And I don't know anything about the movie, and I watched it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
Why would I want to watch a movie about an asshole who picks up 17-year-olds? Like, I just don't want to watch that movie.
Pat, move on.
Okay.
I'm not even in the mood. I'm not even trying to defend the movie. I thought the movie was okay.
All right.
Whatever. It was a movie.
I saw this cute little Xbox, little Beyond Generations video, because Friends and Family has never been done on a console before. We know that. But it was actually kind of endearing. Did you watch this thing? It's like an old British woman who was like young during World War II, talking to I guess it's I don't know if it's an influencer, but like the influencer's playing these multiplayer games with his grandmother, playing like racing games and other stuff.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
And she's telling him, and she's like recorded on Zoom, so it's real. This part's real. Obviously with this guy, it's like nice camera work and cinematography. But with her, it's just Zoom. So it's authentic, I think, to a point. She makes her own character. They're playing Minecraft together, and she's like talking about how she was growing up. And this is a young guy. This is a Zoomer. You know, he's like 20 probably, and the grandma's probably like 80, 80s-ish, something like that. So it's kind of like they're connecting through playing the game because they can't see each other, and telling about how I used to ride a horse and things like that. How like she used to. I think she said like I used to sew or knit for doing something for World War II. It sounded like when she was very young, something like that. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of endearing, and yeah, that's all my thoughts on it. I think it was a cute little campaign that they did. And I guess this is what, if you're an old person, you can play some of these games if you're taught how to use a fucking controller. It's not the most complicated thing in the world.
No, I guess
that's what I go over and do. It's like, she's using a controller. She's playing Minecraft and racing games.
It's a simple ad campaign, gets you in the feels, I guess. But it's true, and it's something that I think is important. And I've mentioned this before. The more time goes on, the less and less we have. It's stereotypical to think, oh, old people don't know how to use technology, but we're all getting older, and we're getting to the point where most old people have handled this stuff before. We're no longer there's not going to be a generation very soon. There's not going to be a generation that looks at video games and goes, oh, that's fancy tech, I've never touched that. It's something that people are acclimated with, or I think it's easier for a lot of people to learn now than it was, say, 15, 20 years ago. And it's a good way to stay in touch. It's something that really is... yeah,
she's probably like 80, about.
Yeah,
so like
even borderline.
For her, she's heard of this stuff. She's right before baby boomer. She's probably born 1940, 1939, around there, 38. So like she's heard of this stuff, but like old people can manage. If they still their faculty, they can learn this stuff. I mean, then again, programming a VCR was always hard even for my parents or even for me back in the day.
That just wasn't clear on how.
It wasn't clear. Those little buttons, you got to snap the thing down. It just wasn't clear to do that. Anyway, I thought it was endearing. Yes, it's advertising, but they're not making a ton of money off of 20-year-old Xbox fans who want to want a game with their grandparents. Mary and Jason, go check that out. I thought it was cute. And this is an Xbox story that we were going to talk about last week and we didn't. About the GoldenEye canceled 360 version surfaced. And there's been gameplay video. I think it's going to be released at some point. I saw Matt McMuscles got a hold of it and did a video about it. And it's an HD 2007 upgrade of the original. And it would have sold like gangbusters if it had come out with multiplayer, with online multiplayer. And it's funny when you look at this, you're like, oh, it doesn't look too new. Then you go back and compare it to how the faces looked like on the 97 version or so, and you're like, oh, Now I see it, or 98 version. Now I see the difference in how this even looks older, but it looks a lot better than the one 20 years ago, 10 years before this one. And did you have any thoughts? Did you watch some gameplay of it?
I did. I mean, I was never a huge fan of the original. But I probably had this come out on the 360. I do think I probably would have bought it and enjoyed it a lot more than I did the N64 version. By the time the N64 version, I don't say I don't like it to be contrarian, because everyone seems to love GoldenEye. It was the fact that by the time GoldenEye got big, I had already been playing a lot of first-person shooters on...
You were spoiled.
PC. Yeah, I was spoiled.
Too.
I played a bunch of first-person shooters before I ever got to GoldenEye. The control scheme for GoldenEye was not ideal. I kind of butted up against it, trying to figure out how to play these games with a standard controller. And then the multiplayer was cool, but split screen on a 27-inch TV, with 4 windows. Frame
rate was not great with 4 players blasting at each other.
I just didn't see the appeal. It
was a step back to us.
Yes,
it was a step back
to a degree. It felt been there, done that.
Yeah.
However, when the 360 came out, probably around the time that this would have been released, I was playing online a lot again. I was playing even some first-person shooters with friends. This would have hit Xbox Live Arcade. This would have been a very easy purchase for me for some online, gaming with friends. Twin stick control would have been a lot better than what was on the 64, and I feel like I would have enjoyed this quite a bit. This is something that I definitely would have been playing a considerable amount of had it been released at that time.
So they try to keep it as close to the original code as possible. The idea was to keep the code as close as possible to the original and compile it as it was where possible. Where things got interesting was the addition of a swap graphics button. Anytime a player tapped that button, the game's new Xbox engine would bolt new models and textures on top of the N64's version's geometry, collisions, movement, and joint and skidding systems. They increase the in-game resolution and remove an N64-like anti-aliasing filter. Tap the button again, and the game would go back to the original resolution, textures, and base geometry. Okay, so you could basically go back and forth in terms of the graphic style, which is pretty cool. Back then, that was the case, and from what I was reading here, it was like it was getting close to finished. They were just bug hunting at that point.
So, in this, some information that popped up yesterday and today to ground this in something current is that this was very close to release. The Rare dev team that was working on it says that there was something like 90 bugs left to go knock out. They, that was what was left on their to-do list. So very, very close to being completed. It's a bummer it never came out.
And then we were told everyone had approved it. Edmund says the rights were all cleared with no condition that anybody had to work on a version for a Nintendo console or any other requirements. This was all the team needed to hear to continue work on the 360 version. Later, the 8 devs in the project learned the truth about negotiations. When it was canceled, when it was put to Nintendo, everyone there approved it, except they didn't check with the one guy who mattered and trying to figure out who the one guy was. So some other Nintendo executive whose name was left a mystery to the Red development team. So they had to get the sign-off of, obviously, the rights holders to James Bond. And I guess Nintendo still had their stake in the original game since they published it back then. So it's like, at that point, Nintendo was the holdout. So it's like,
right.
Oh, fuck. Right? They could have cleared it, and then you would have saw it. Maybe it's the fact that Nintendo's like, well, if we can't really make money off of this, if we can't put this on, could they have put it on the Wii? Would the Wii have been powerful enough to have played it versus the 360? Yeah, maybe that's what they thought. We can't make the money. We're basically having Microsoft eat our lunch on a game that we were involved with. Maybe. What are you thinking? Do you think that's what it was, or something else?
No, I mean, it could have. I didn't put much thought into it, but yeah, I mean, Nintendo, I just figured would always make it kind of difficult to ever get a true GoldenEye remake off the ground.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things where I was in a similar boat for you when I played it, where I was not indignant about the fact that other people were enjoying it, because remember, we were playing with kids that not everyone had PCs yet in the mid-90s. So it's okay, you might have heard Doom, you never played it, but you never played Duke Nukem, you never played these other awesome first-person shooters that were playing. There were a lot of them that were really good, and it was the fact that you get the controller and you get your ass kicked, like you never played a first-person shooter before when you played them for like years at that point.
I do want to say this. As much as I always rag on the game, it's always from the...
It's a fun game.
It's always from the viewpoint of multiplayer.
Yes.
Because that's all anyone ever did. Like, after the game had been out for a couple months, all anyone ever did was play multiplayer.
Sure.
The single-player game was pretty cool for the time. With its multiple, missions that you had to get done.
Bonus missions. There was different objectives, primary, secondary objectives.
Like, it was a really well...
They followed the movie as best they could for a game like that. Yeah.
For someone, especially me, who does not give Rare much credit, it was an interesting game. If that had been on PC, I probably would have played the hell out of the single player.
Oh,
the single player campaign, 100%.
If that was a multiplayer in the PC in the late 90s, that would have been huge.
But yeah, no, multiplayer was all anyone ever wanted to do, and I didn't get into it.
And the soundtrack's amazing.
That is a good soundtrack.
They didn't touch the soundtrack, thankfully, on the footage I saw from 361. They didn't touch it. It's just the same soundtrack. We'll just throw it back in there, because if they touched that, people would have went nuts. So, hopefully that's released, and hopefully someone's not sued when everyone has it, and when they'll do. I saw a multiplayer, a local one being played with a split screen, I believe. But if they somehow patch that to be able to play that on a PC with multiplayer, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
A Nintendo documentary series was announced, which is coming out in March, Ian. Looks super interesting. I'm glad we're now entering like this golden age of video game documentaries. Mm-hmm. Some have been bad.
Finally moved in.
Some have been better. That's an ad that's playing auto-played somehow, even though I have it turned off. So I'm glad to see stuff like this happening. And this one is going to be, please don't autoplay again, GameSpot. You're killing me, GameSpot. I'm giving you another chance here. So it's called Playing with Power. The Nintendo story will premiere on Crackle, the ad-supported streaming service previously owned by Sony. I didn't know Crackle was still around.
Neither did I.
Written and directed by Jeremy Sneed and narrated by Sean Astin. All right. Who previously worked together on Video Games the Movie, which I still have yet to see. The series will tackle over a century of Nintendo's history, and it was developed over the course of 4 years. So you're going back to the Hanafuda days there, up into the toy era and board games and sex motels, up until video games and things. So that's going to be really interesting.
Love motels. Patrick.
Yeah, you just shared ice cream in those rooms and
love hotels.
and you light touching there.
Light petting.
Light petting, is that what it's called? Light petting?
No,
even as a kid, I was like, what is that? I was like,
light petting.
Heavy petting. I was like, what does that mean? Yeah, paw. What is it? I don't get that. So, have you seen Video Games the Movie? I've never seen it.
No.
According to this article, it was critically derided when it was released in 2014. It was called Unfocused and took a pretty service-level look at the subject matter. Was it trying to cover all video games in 2014 for like an audience that didn't know what video games was? A lot's happened in 6-7 years.
It's true.
When it comes to this medium. A lot's happened. Now people are taking this a lot more seriously. God, we just had the Netflix documentary we talked about. Console Wars. There's others, the Tony Hawk one. There's tons of other ones. There's all these mini ones. So there's an arcade documentary we talked about a few months ago. There's a lot coming out now. We're getting more professional level documentaries to really do this justice. However, it's on Crackle. I don't even know how to access Crackle, so I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to see this. If it's on Amazon, I'll rent it or buy it. Would you want to check this out? It's going to be a 4-part, so is that 4 hours?
I will probably watch it. 4-part series tend to be right in my wheelhouse.
Excuse me, Jesus Louise. For killers and for Nintendo history.
Yeah.
So, I guess if you could do the whole history. The first hour can be up to the video games probably. Then 3 hours covering, 80s to probably mid 90s. Then after that,
that seems reasonable.
You can probably do that. That's not. You can cover a good amount of stuff probably. If they're hours, not. I hate to have to do this artificial 45-minute bullshit when it's on a TV show. Make it an hour. There's no commercials to worry about.
Right.
It doesn't have to be 45 minutes for 44 minutes for 15 minutes of commercials. What are we doing here? You want to talk about that new NES mapper that was announced, Ian? By Something Nerdy?
Yeah.
Something Nerdy Studios. I talked to them a little bit behind the scenes.
There's a new NES mapper, which is Pat's got the behind the scene info. Back to you, Patrick.
Oh, come on. I don't want to carry the whole podcast on my back here. Okay. So
look, I didn't watch any 10-year-old movies to talk about today, and I don't know anything about mappers.
Okay.
I was trying to go somewhere with the mapper talk.
So Something Nerdy Studios, at Something Nerdy, without a G, they've been tweeting out like little things about, look at this sprite art. pixel art, NES hashtag. Look at this full motion video on their Twitter. They said, ever play Chrono Trigger? Remember that Mode 7 cutscene where when Lavos falls? So they have developed a mapper called MXM-0. If you don't know anything about Nintendo mappers, you're not alone because I barely understand them. They're basically different memory modules that each NES game has a mapper that can do different things. You can do different programming tricks, different art things. That's why Super Mario 3 looks different than Ice Climber. That's why Ice Climber looks different than Wally Bear. It's not one size fits all in the NES. That's why you can get different tricks in Kirby. The more complex the game, it has a more complex mapper. And the game can be bigger. It can do different things. So they're doing something. They're creating a new mapper. And a lot of games have their own mapper. A lot of the pirate games have their own mapper to try to do things or figure out things for themselves. So that's not new. But the fact that they're trying to do something to make this look more like, this looks like a TurboGrafx 16 game. And some of the footage they're tweeting in sprite art. It looks closer to 16-bit graphics. Not quite 16-bit. It's closer. The effects are definitely closer to 16-bit here.
Yes, and that's what I've noticed. It's the animation, the effects, like the waves in the water, the rustling in the grass, that sort of stuff, all taken. That sort of stuff in the amount that's done in the little clips that we've seen really makes it look pretty special. Obviously, you're still limited, to a certain number of colors and things like that. Sure.
I think less so though with this mapper. From what it looks like there's look at the character's face. There's shading on the face.
I noticed a little bit of it on that.
So there's not just like 3 or 4 colors as you usually be standing on a sprite. You can only have 3 or maybe 4 colors. Looks like there's more than that here. At least they're using them a lot better. So the plan is they're making a game with using this mapper, and they're also planning on having cartridge built through Infinite NES Lives, who've done they do the shells and things and do
the Inversion Project, I believe, is the name of
it's going to be a science fiction looks like action RPG. It says think Fallout but real time. Wow, real time. Okay. Set on an alien world where a failed terraforming mission took place. Mystery, intrigues, puzzle, exploration. So I guess you'd ask yourself, why would you want to do this? Like, why would you want to have an NES game, push the NES to its absolute limits? Not going to hit it again. To do something like this versus programming elsewhere. Well, there's people that they already have experience coding with NES games.
Right.
So they want to be able to do something a little bit beyond. And a game like this, you could put this on an NES cart, probably a more spendier NES cart if you have to make a new mapper, but you can still sell an actual NES cart. But the digital release of this might appeal just a little bit more because it doesn't look quite 8-bit.
Without doing a separate
release, you can do the same game and have it released here. So I'm like, I get that. I totally get that.
It kind of bridges the gap. It tries to bridge the gap between a game on the NES, and something that might look more like a modern indie game.
It's closer. It's not there. It's not entirely 16-bit, but it's straddling that line. It's getting there. So I get that. So yeah, I talked to one of the people from Something Nerdy, and they have a full team working on this game and developing this mapper. So right now the mapper is working on. I guess they had to custom code it for the Messin emulator, which I'm not familiar with the emulator at all. So it's a theoretical thing. Theoretically, it works. We can do NES games like this. They did have a full motion video playing. In 8-bit, which is funny. They had a Jurassic Park video I saw in Empire Strikes Back where that's playing on it. Like that can technically play on NES hardware. You'll be able to see like a scene, like a movie scene play out. So something like from Out of This World, like that sort of full motion video. It's like, oh, that's super interesting for an NES game to do that. So I guess we'll probably talk about this more. There'll eventually be a Kickstarter for this game, and we'll probably cover that and see what. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, no, it's very neat. If this is what we're seeing with it just now, it'll be really impressive to see what other people can do with it too.
Absolutely. And then out of nowhere, Howard Phillips, our buddy, hero, friend, Howard Phillips. I got 2 signed cards from him. Only time I ever got starstruck. Howard Phillips, the games master from Nintendo, worked for Nintendo 10 years, from his days of carting, Donkey Kong cabinets into the warehouse, up to the release of the Super Nintendo when he decided to go off into greener pastures there. Everyone knew Howard Phillips from Howard and Nestor. He was the face of Nintendo for years, Nintendo Power. So he has a Kickstarter that came out this morning. It came out, and it's going to be an insider's guide to Nintendo's coming of age. Game Master Classified. It's going to be like a graphic novel type of book with stories about how he worked inside Nintendo and wacky things that happen and secrets and favorite games and things. And I'm in. I'm gonna get this if it comes out. I'll get this.
Yeah, no, this will be a fun read. I met Howard once. He's friendly, affable, fun to talk to.
Very affable. Did you meet him at Portland? PRG? I met him at Classic Game Expo.
I met him at one of the Portlands. Maybe even the most recent Portland, which is not very recent.
I was going to say, it was a year and a half ago.
Year and a half. That might have been it. But no, I think he's probably got some very interesting stories to tell. A guy who was there during that period that so many of us love so much. I mean,
that's the period.
Yeah, he's got all the info. So I do think it'll be an interesting read, and I would definitely like to check it out.
You can see he's doing this with a partner. Matthew Toronto is doing obviously all the artwork. It's laid out like a magazine, but with stories. There's a little Howard and Nestor called a little kind of comic called Howard's Now Playing. Where I think it's a story I heard him tell about people were afraid that the zapper looked like a toy gun. He's like, how can you confuse a toy zapper gun with a real gun? And it's a cute little comic about that. And then classified information about the Donkey Kong Universal lawsuit about King Kong versus Donkey Kong.
Nice.
So that's there on this page here. And then he got my attention because his original tweet yesterday, because he hasn't tweeted in like 2-3 years. He kind of goes off and then it comes back. His tweet yesterday was question: what to a surprise end of Super Mario Brothers? Surprise end, that's interesting. The Legend of Zelda without English text. Huh. The Woodshed with Howard Lincoln. What was that, a fight that happened? An anatomically correct boss character. What? The total number of stadium event games produced, an obscene title screen, and a butter monkey have in common. I'll buy it just to find that out. I'll spend what is it? How much does it cost for this book? $19 for the ebook. Then the hardcover is $39. I'm in just for that. And all I can say is this. You can thank me because I pestered the hell out of him to try to get him to answer that before I did my Stadium Events video 3 years ago. Because I said, hey, Howard, you have this information. He's like, yeah. And he probably realized, hey, if Pat's asking, maybe other people care. No, only me and 20 other crazy people care about this. But I'm glad it's going to be in this book. I'm so happy to find out how many Stadium Events were produced.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So,
and it sounds like there could be a story behind that too, potentially. There has to be a story behind that. That's what I alluded to in my fucking long video. There has to be a story here about how it was produced and so little of them were made. There's something to this. And no, it wasn't a fucking Woolworths, New York fucking test market thing. That's ridiculous. This is the real, Howard's got the skinny on Stadium Events.
Yes. So,
is there anything else you want to hear him talk about or explain? That'd be interesting.
No, that's.
I mean, he's told me in passing, other people around, he said straight out that I think I asked him straight out, why, Super Mario Brothers 2, why did the Japanese one never come out? He said I played it, it wasn't fun. Like it wasn't fun. Super Mario. Yeah. He basically said you're rewarding the play. You're punishing the player for how they played in the first one and the second one.
Yeah.
For getting all the mushrooms, for going quickly. You change the game entirely, and it's not fun. So you can thank Howard for the awesome real Super Mario Brothers 2 that we got, because he probably had a hand in that, because he was playing all the games. Like he was literally playing the games that came in and said, "Oh, this game sucks. This is good. We're going to do this one." I'm not saying he had 100% track record on those, but for the most part, he kept a lot of the bad games out. There's some Famicom games you look at that deal. Oh, those are clunkers. Those were like Atari 2600 type games that should never have come out in the NES, and they didn't. Thankfully, it was a step above that seal of quality. Talk about the ass in Mass Effect.
I really don't. But basically, people seem to be upset because the Mass Effect remake is going to be changing the angle, cutting back on some of the gratuitous butt shots that were in the original game. The original game was known for basically, in a lot of the cinematic cutscenes, the camera would be oddly situated directly behind. Oddly situated directly behind the ass, as opposed to a more natural camera angle.
Was it equal opportunity? Was it man ass as well? You could see.
From what I understand, there was a lot of ass.
Just ass all.
But I never played it.
I'm looking at this dialogue shot here on this page on PC Gamer, and it is funny, the framing, because usually when you watch a movie and it's framed, reverse angle, you're like over the shoulder, you see the side of the person's head. This is literally up. You see what's his name, the main character, and then you see her ass on the left side, so it's angled up. So to shoot that shot, if you had a camera, you had to be like on the ground behind her ass, pointed up to get that shot. If it was actually using a camera, I just think it's funny. Yes, it's gratuitous. It's very gratuitous. So of course you probably have grifting YouTubers that are angry.
You say you're going to change that, and you're going to add some animations so that female shepherd and male shepherd, there aren't instances of shared animations looking weird on one or the other, especially looking weird on female shepherd. But yeah, you do get grifting YouTubers who are going to cry about fucking censorship to make their dollars. And
go play the original then and see the ass. The ass is still there.
Yeah.
Go watch every cutscene for every video game that has ever existed is on YouTube at this point, so you can see all the cutscenes. If you want to see that Miranda ass or Miranda ass, one word.
They're changing a camera angle, not a game, not the game. You'll live.
Sure. You know what's going to change the game, Ian? We have an animated Tales from the Game Store. It's going to premiere Saturday the 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. It's been in the works for a bit. Someone did it. It's funny. Someone said, "Hey, I did this Tales from the Game Store animated." I was like, "Oh, you did? Okay." That's basically how it happened. So you can see it early. If you go to patreon.com/podcast, I'm going to put up early. Or if you remember, on YouTube, you'll see that early. So even Ian might enjoy it once he sees it. It's very well done.
And lastly, in our little
long-ass intro. That's a 250th. I can edit longer today.
WB has patented their Nemesis system that they use in used in Shadows of Mordor and
Mordor.
What was the other one? There's two games that have like those names. Middle-earth Shadows of Mordor Nemesis system, and they did the other Mordor. This system has basically been the one good thing people talk about with this game, and how it's unique, and I think people were really expecting to see more of it. Basically, Nemesis is the way I can is, if I'm understanding this correctly, is that it's like procedural generation for enemy units. So like if you take out a leader of like a troop or something in this, it picks from someone else within that troop that all have their own unique stats and things like that to be promoted to become like the next
the assistant captain becomes a captain.
Yeah,
basically.
essentially. And so there's basically an entire network of procedural generated enemies that have their own hierarchies and strengths, and they replace each other as they die. Things fall out. And from what I've understood,
their ranks get basically changed. Basically. Yeah. Got it. That's interesting.
And I've heard it's a really great system. It's very interesting. It leads to clever situations in the game and adds strategy to it. And now they have tried to they've patented the system, and patenting gameplay mechanics is an awful thing to do. A bad idea and a slippery slope.
It got rejected originally, it looked like, from the patent office. Then the next year they accepted it somehow. Notice of allowance was issued in 2020. 2019 it was rejected. What the hell happened in that year?
Laughing my ass off, what a load of shit, Obsidian design director Josh Sawyer wrote on Twitter last week. If you take someone's design and make a better version of it, you should be given a trophy and a triumph through the streets, and the people who made previous versions should applaud you and say, wow, that was really cool. I mean, the whole point of video games and how we've gotten to this point is being able to iterate on cool ideas and improve ideas and make them better, and this seems like it's the antithesis of that.
How do you patent it? How do you patent a gameplay design? Like, how do you do that? Because you're not physically creating something. It's an idea. That's like patenting. That'd be like patenting a like part of a story. Like, I'm patenting I kidnap someone and then the bad guy's holding him for ransom and then the good guy has to get him back. Like, you can't. That's just part of the creative. Like, you can't patent like a game show idea or a genre or a sitcom. Like, imagine if you patent, if they said back in the Honeymooners, okay, there's been no other sitcoms ever. You can't do something where everyone's laughing at an audience of a man and wife can't get along and they have wacky neighbors. That's like half of sitcoms that exist. It's a huge slippery slope. That no one's going to want to do something like this ever in their game or come close to it. They think they're going to get sued potentially, or have to pay a license for a gameplay element. That's insane.
Yeah.
I can't. This will go to court. I think this would have to go to court.
Rami Ismail said here from Vlambeer, since I was forced to learn a little bit about this, a patent is not a copyright, and having one doesn't necessarily mean they'll enforce it or win a case on it. So,
because a copyright is something in stone. It's something written or recorded. It's something that if someone else tries to do it, you can say, "Oh no, I have it replicated." Right? Like you can't do that exact same thing. This, it would be so nebulous that, like, what if I tiptoed up to the point where I'm doing something similar? They're gonna go after me because my game plays similarly? That's insane. You can't have characters jump and hit blocks because Mario does that. Nintendo's got a patent on it. You can't do platformers anymore. You can't do that. You can't patent like movie ideas or structures or game ideas you can't do that. That's insane.
Yeah, it looks like it might be scaring people off. This narrative designer and writer Kat Manning says the patent is so broad as to be absurd. Multiple other emergent narrative systems that I've seen and worked on could be described with this language. Probably would not be legally enforceable, but I and other indie devs don't have the money to find out.
So why would WB get a patent if they think they can't legally go after someone? Or maybe they don't want it. They just want to say, oh, we did something cool. Is it a marketing ploy? Oh, we have this patented. So they can put on their package, patented gameplay design?
Yeah.
We're using the Nemesis system in our other games?
Yeah. You can do that without patenting it.
No. Remember the Fine Brothers? Is a memory. The Fine Brothers wanted to patent the genre of reaction videos.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
How did that work out?
It didn't.
Woo!